Welcome to another parent-teacher video lesson from the earlygiftedmanual.com, a free website for homeschooled children 3 to 7 years old and their parents that promotes and develops giftedness at an early age. I am Gary Blank, the creator of that site, and your host and facilitator for this video and all of the videos in my educational program. As the video lessons are designed to work in conjunction with the program on my website, I ask you to, at some point, click on the URL link in the description box below, and this action will take you to the earlygiftedmanual.com. By doing that, you will be able to put this lesson and all of the video lessons here on my channel in the proper context of the total program that I am presenting to you and your child. And now let's talk about a somewhat different type of graphing activity, and I call this graphing survey data. So the first thing you might want to talk with your child about is what do we mean by survey? What is a survey? Well, a survey is sort of a gathering information and opinions from others. So in other words, this isn't about counting articles of clothing like we did the last time. Now you and your child will be getting information from several individuals. So I think the best way to do this with your child is just to jump right into it. You could say to him, well, we're going to do a survey and we're going to ask people a question, and usually they're yes. These surveys are often yes no, have yes no answers, but we'll get to that in a minute. But this particular one I've chosen, and of course you could choose any kind of question you want. There are so many. Have you ever seen a rainbow? And this is going to be what I call a 2-column survey, because it's strictly a yes or no question, and most 2-column surveys are yes no, so to speak. So the question is, have you ever seen a rainbow? And you and your child can go out and elicit responses from other young children, his friends or whatever, or you could just wait at home for his or her friends to come over and compile some data, as we say, on this subject, and get some information from that. So, I mean, this is one question you could ask. Have you ever seen a rainbow? Another 2-column survey you could do is something like, for example, do you have any pets? And of course that would be a yes-no. So I'm talking away here, so why don't I show you what I mean. So here's our survey sheet. As you can see, it's on a clipboard, which means you can take it with you places, or it's easy to move around and easy to use. So the question is already written down. I'm going to put a line across like that. I'm going to put another line across like that. And now I've already mentioned it's a 2-column survey. This is going to be a yes or no answer. So right down the middle, I'm going to put a line. And over here is yes. Over here is no. And there it is. Once you've gotten this far, you're ready to go. And of course, you and your child can do this together. Let him or her do some of the writing. And of course, soon enough, he or she will be able to do it on their own. So you have your sheet completed. Now it just remains to collect the data. And let's say sometimes, you can say in the beginning, well, I want to take a sample of 20 people, or sometimes you just sample as many people, as you can, and then you can add it all up later. But let's say in this particular instance, you and your child have sampled 20 people, and let's say, the first one says, well, yes, I've seen a rainbow. A young child says, yes, I've seen a rainbow. So we're using tally marks, and that's what you will be using when you are taking survey data. So you ask one person, and he or she says yes, and maybe the next person says, well, no, I have not ever seen a rainbow. And maybe the next person, maybe the next two people say yes, yes, and the next person says no. And then maybe the next three people say yes. So 4, and as you know, we talked about tally marks. We did that in the math section. We have to bundle these. So let's see, I said 3. I hope this was right, and I started with 3. So it would look like that. So you have to bundle these in 5. So far, looking there, we can see that we've asked 5, 6, 7, 8 people this question. 6 have said yes, 2 have said no, and of course this can keep on going on, and it might eventually end up, I'm not going to go through every one here. What do we say? We're looking for a sample of 20. I'm just going to make this up as I go along here. And let's see, that's 12 and as you can see, if you add all these up, 10 or 5, 10, 12, and here's 8 more over here, that's a total of 20. And of course, you can go through this with your child, ask him or her, well, how many said yes? And he or she should be able to count by 5s and count on 5, 10, 11, 12. And this is what you usually do after you count the tally marks. You put the number. Sometimes I like to put a circle, around the number, just so it stands out a little bit. And he or she can count and say 5, 6, 7, 8. Said no, and of course the obvious questions was, did more people say yes or did more people say no? And there's your data. 12 said yes, they have seen a rainbow. 8 have said no, they did not see a rainbow. So as you can see, this is, you definitely call this a graph. It's just a different kind of graph than like the bar graph that we worked with earlier in the lesson, and it's called a survey, and this one is called a 2-column survey. And we can also have multi-column surveys, and with of course a variety of questions that can be asked. There's almost no end to the different kinds of questions you could ask in surveys. And so I just decided to pick one here that's pretty straightforward and kind of a popular survey question. So you and your child could go out or wait at home and let the kids come to you, and you could ask them, how many siblings do you have? And of course, you can, if they do not have the word sibling in their vocabulary, you could explain what that is. In other words, how many brothers and sisters do you have total? And as you can see, I've already laid out the lines for you here. This column is 0, 1 sibling, 2 siblings, and this one is for anything more than 2 siblings. So you could ask, your child could ask the question, how many siblings do you have, to all of his friends and any young people that come over to the house, and start tabulating And, maybe the first one might say, oh, none, I'm an only child. Next one might say, oh, 5. So it's more than 2, so there only be a tally mark there. And you could build this up. I'm just going to kind of make up some figures here. Oops, that's a mistake. There we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say 5. And let's say 2, 5. And let's say that was it. You had taken the sample you've wanted to take, and of course sample is another word you can use with graphs. That's the number of people that were asked the question. And read the results. How many siblings do you have? 3 people, young children, said they didn't have any. 1, 2, 3. 5, 6, 7, 8 said they only had 1. 5 said they had 2. And 10 people said they had more than 2. So, as you can see, you could have a 2-column survey. Like I said, those are often yes/no questions. You could have a multi-column survey like this. And it's simply another type of graph. But in this instance, it's specifically called a survey. And as we said earlier, it's a way of gathering information and opinions from others. And I actually forgot one last step here of this multi-column survey. How many siblings do you have? As you can see, you could have your child do this, write in the numbers that relate to the tally marks here. 3 said none. 8 have 1 sibling. 5 have 2. And 10 had more than 2. And then you could do with this what you always do with graphs and surveys. You could compare the numbers and talk a little bit about the results of the survey.